Now, good afternoon. I'm Sharon Hung, Executive Director of Human Rights in China. Welcome to our live Facebook discussion on the upcoming 19th Party Congress with Professor Andrew Nathan and Mr. Gao Wenqian. Under the CPC Constitution, the Party Congress is held every 5 years and is the highest authority of the party. Its major tasks are to elect the highest leadership and determine major policies. However, the actual process centers around a small group of higher level party leaders and secret party negotiations. With it, the power battles this year have been especially intense, surpassing that of the 19th Party Congress. You can visit our homepage, hrichina.org, for a backgrounder on the functions and operations of the Party Congress, some of the latest developments, things to look out for, and a preliminary assessment of the post-Congress political situation. Remember, please post your questions on Facebook. You can also, if you prefer, email us your questions to communications@hrichina.org. So now I would like to, it's a great pleasure to introduce our Professor Andy Nathan. He is the class of 1990 professor of political science at Columbia University. He is a well-known expert on Chinese politics and foreign policy, comparative study of political participation in political culture, and human rights. He is the author of numerous acclaimed books on China, including China's Search for Security, and an editor of the Tiananmen Papers. Professor Nathan also chairs the steering committee of the Columbia University Center for the Study of Human Rights, and he is a board member of HRIC. Mr. Gao is HRIC's senior policy advisor, and he has worked as a senior researcher at the Research Center on Party Literature of the Communist Party of China. He is the author of the acclaimed Zhou Enlai, The Last Perfect Revolutionary. So I would like to invite Mr. Gao and Professor Nathan to take their chairs. Welcome, Mr. Gao and Professor Nathan. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Mr. Gao will speak mostly in Chinese, but he will also speak in English. But when Mr. Gao speaks in Chinese, we will have consecutive translation. So let's begin with, let's look at first an assessment of the current state of play. So Professor Nathan, let me ask you first. So in the behind the scenes and not so behind the scenes internal party struggles underway, what are the different factions and their respective agendas?
The question of factions in the Chinese party leadership is a very contested one, and it's murky. So I think a common understanding is that there exists something called the Youth League faction, which is made up of people who've made their careers in the Communist Youth League, and that it was associated with the former party general secretary Hu Jintao and other leaders before him, and that it's represented in the current setup by the premier Li Keqiang, and there are a number of people who are candidates for promotion at this Congress who have who outside analysts associate with that background of being in the Youth League. And then there's said to be a prince's faction of people whose fathers and grandfathers were party leaders in the past, and so they come from a kind of aristocratic or red nobility background. And there's also said to be a Shanghai faction or a Jiang Zemin faction of people who are associated with the senior former party leader Jiang Zemin, who had been the party secretary in Shanghai, and a lot of the people that he was associated with rose up with him from having worked with him in Shanghai. But I have to say, for myself, I'm skeptical about this analysis, although it's very, very widespread. one reason I'm skeptical is that the Youth League is a gigantic organization, and almost everybody who rises up in the Communist Party has passed through the Youth League one time or another. It's hard to tell who, is really loyal to that particular collective group. The princes also are sort of helter-skelter. They're all over the place. I don't know that they really form a faction. Some of it depends a bit on what you mean by a faction, I guess. I think it's certainly true in China, as in any political system, but maybe even more so, that to get ahead you need a mentor. You need to be found out by somebody as a talent and be promoted by that person. And a lot of people who seem to be rising up have worked before with Xi Jinping himself in Zhejiang or in Fujian. So there, you could say there's a Xi faction. But just to conclude those remarks, I think that from the outside, you asked about the inside and the outside perspective, and I don't really have an inside perspective. These things are kept very, very quiet. But from the outside, it's hard to see any opposition or competitor at this point to Xi Jinping. The appearance, all the evidence that I have, suggests that everybody now is a Xi Jinping loyalist.
So, Mr. Gao, I think Professor Nathan just gave us a view. Do you have any? What's your view of Professor Nathan's comment that you don't see any from the outside competitor to Xi Jinping? What do you see from the inside?
连友教授呢是中国政治问题专家，那么呢，我同意他刚才的一些看法和一些对于党内这个派系划分的这种划分的这种觉得是不是怎么来解释？哎。
Professor Andy Nathan is a political scientist professor, and I mostly agree with how his views on how the factions is divided up.
Yeah. 应该说呢，中共党内的派别呢，这是一个历史形成的啊，并不是有一个严格的一个组织，有一个帮规。
So the factions in the Communist Party are basically formed within the history. It's not like have strict rules on how they are divided up.
Yeah. 那么呢，长话短说了。那么从习近平上台以后呢，基本上可以说呢，我认为中共党内呢分成3个大的派别，或者是3个大的这种比较 close 的这种群体。
In short, I think after Xi's coming to power, within the party there now are 3 factions.
那么第一个就是习派。第二是江派，第3个就是团派，可以说呢，这是一个三国演义。
One is Xi's faction, the other is Jiang Zemin's factions, and the third one is the Youth League sections. Now we call them Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
那么呢，这三国呢，3大派呢，实际上我觉得在中共19大前的话呢，进行了重新的分化组合，变成了2大派。
So these 3 factions before the 19th Party's Congress, now they're kind of having a restructure, and now there are 2 main factions.
那么哪个2大派呢？第一就是习派，第二就是党内的反习势力或者反习王势力。
One faction is Xi's factions, and the other is anti-Xi faction.
为什么这样子呢？因为中共党内这些派别啊，不是一个永久的一个概念。只有永久的利益，没有永久的敌人。
Because all those factions within the party are not permanent. Because there are no permanent
enemies,
only permanent interests.
那么呢，党代会的话，那么我再顺便说一下这个党代会呢，这个党代会呢，历来就是说呢，权力再分配的会议。那么历来是呢，党内各派呢在幕后呢进行交易，是一个黑箱作业。讨价还价，然后由这个党代会呢盖橡皮图章。
So the party's congress are basically a battlefield for power struggles, and it's more like a black box where people negotiate, and in the end they will propose a proposal, and in the end the party's congress will stamp their rubber stamp on it.
应该说呢，这次围绕19大的这个人事安排的这个权力权斗啊，比以往更加激烈，比超过5年前的中共18大，也就是曾经发生了博王事件。
I would have to say is that this personnel arrangement in the 19th Party Congress is more intense, even more than 5 years ago, the 18th Party Congress, where the Wang Bo case happened.
我就补充这么多。
Great. Well,
王博案件你要不要说明？
do you want to clarify the Wang Bo 案件？
王博案件呢，这是整个影响中共18大的这个最后的这个人事安排的一个突发性的一个事件。所谓王呢，就是当时是重庆市的这个副市长兼公安局长，他是薄熙来的亲信。
So the big case of Wang Bo is what directs the whole personnel arrangement in the 18th Party Congress. Yeah. And Wang is the deputy mayor of the Chongqing city, and he's very close to Bo Xilai.
那么薄熙来呢，当时是重庆的第一把手，是中共中央政治局委员。
And Bo Xilai at that point is the head of the Chongqing, and he was the
Standing committee member.
Yes.
那么呢，本来他们俩的关系呢非常非常的 close， 但是呢最后闹翻了以后，王立军呢就跑到了美国驻成都领事馆，这个就是引起了成为一个国际事件。
Wang and Bo was very close, but later on they have some battles and struggles. So later on, Wang go to the American embassies and it becomes international.
Consulate.
那么呢，薄熙来在这个问题上呢，就成为就不可推卸的责任。薄熙来本来是问鼎中央常委的强有力的一个竞争人物，但是这件事情之后呢，他不仅没有进入常委，而且成为阶下囚，被判刑。你看这个。
So Bo was supposed to get into the Standing Committee of the Central Committee, but because of this evidence, in the end, he didn't be able to enter the Standing Committee and become a prisoner.
Well, let's come back to the current state of play and whether it's the 3 more or less factions or the 2 remaining factions of the romance of the 3 kingdoms. Can you each say something about the agendas, the interests? Like, what do they want, these different factions? What are their primary interests? Yeah.
So as Lao Gao was saying this, before the 18th Party Congress, Bo Xilai was very clearly bidding for power. There was a clear, open power competition. Today, we don't see that. You can't identify anybody. Now, part of the reason is Xi Jinping is already there in charge, and he's now up for a second term, which is really quite routine. So it would be extraordinarily unusual for anybody to be competing with Xi Jinping to get us at the time when he's up for a second term. But what we're really looking at is who gets appointed to the Standing Committee, whether Li Keqiang, who's widely seen as the Youth League faction, is going to be reappointed as premier, whether Wang Qishan, who's been a key ally of Xi Jinping's in carrying out the anti-corruption campaign, who would normally be expected to retire, because of his age, whether he will stay in office, and if so, will he continue to run the anti-corruption campaign? Those are the kinds of issues. So we don't have a power struggle at the scale of the one that Lao Gao was describing. What's at stake? Again, looking at evidence, we could imagine, we may even assume that there must be, because there always have been in the past, and there always are in politics, that there must be ideological issues and policy issues. It stands to reason that there would be. They might be issues about political liberalization versus political crackdown, about market economy versus state economy, about foreign policy, moderation versus far. They might be there, but however, when you look to find out any evidence at all in the public record, or even in my conversations with Chinese people, for where is that debate, I can't find any evidence. The evidence that I'm seeing is that Xi Jinping has a China dream, the 100 years. Well, Gao can explain what this is. And China's greatness, and everybody is behind that vision, it looks like. Okay, is that believable? It's hard to believe it, but that's what we're seeing. So I could speculate about what issues might be there. I can't really give you any evidence about what the issues are. Of course, however, having said so, even if everybody is on one point about the Chinese dream, there are always questions about how to get there. What do we do with state loans? What do we do with the South China Sea? What do we do with Taiwan? But the picture that I get is that Xi Jinping decides these things and everybody else agrees.
Yeah. So maybe Mr. Gao, you can follow up. I think Andy's suggesting there must be ideological and policy issues. Of course, we see them, but where's the evidence? But maybe you can elaborate. That you think that maybe now we have two main factions, Xi and the 党内的法系. So they must, if they're anti-Xi, they must have some view or some different interest. Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit about, maybe Xi's China dream as well as this anti-Xi party's interests and agenda?
我觉得这回中共19大呢和以往当然以往的话呢，也就是特别是在跟以往6·4前吧，咱们可以把历史的视野放得更远一些。最大的不同呢，他们并不是一个 policy 的一个 debate， 一个分歧，而是呢权力上的这种争夺。
I think the biggest difference between the 19th Party's Congress and any kind of Party's Congress before, even before the June 4th, the difference is that this is not a policy debate, it's a power debate, it's a power struggle.
当然了，因为中共整个它的政治运作呢，就是黑箱作业，外人是不知道的，它是密室交易。然后的话呢，最后到开大会的时候，需要用党代会来给它盖橡皮图章，因此呢，外人的话呢，没办法真真切切的了解究竟 what's going on inside.
Of course, because how the party function is that it's basically a black box. So generally, most of the time, the outsider will not know what's really going on inside. And it was not until in the end, the party's Congress have put on their rubber stamp that everybody know what's going on.
那么如果我刚才说到19大现在是从18大的三国演义变成了两大派，习派和反习势力的这个争夺的话，那么的话呢，我的看法呢，那是这样子的。
So if I said that the situation has changed from the romance of the three kingdoms in the 18th Party Congress to now there are two big factions in the 19th Party's Congress. Here is my point.
那么习近平呢，他现在呢是力主呢争取19大的主导权，就尽可能的主导权里面包括什么呢？包括的话呢，尽量安排自己的人入常，就是进入常委，入局就是进入政治局。另外呢，把自己的思想呢写入党章，那么是不是还想再设立党主席啊？
So she is fighting for the leading power of the 19th Party's Congress, and here is a few things that he wants. First, he wants to put as much people into the standing committee, and then as much people into the Politburo as possible. And also, he also wants to put Xi thought into the party's charter, and even more, he wants to establish the positions of the chairman within the party.
而呢，对习的这些 意图呢，我觉得反习势力呢现在是尽量的来抵制。
And for all the things that she wants, the anti-Xi factions now is trying to resist that.
那么现在这个焦点呢，就变成了王岐山的去留问题，可以说这是中共19大的最大的看点。
And now one of the focus is whether Wang Qishan will be able to stay in the office. That's the main focus of this 90s problem.
那么在这里面呢，我想稍微的话呢，做一点背景的介绍，就是为什么说王岐山他成为了中共19大最大的看点。
Now I want to introduce some of the background about why Wang is the focus of this party's Congress.
那么可以说5年来呢，习王的联盟呢是习近平执政的基石。
We can say that the collaborations between Xi and Wang is the cornerstone of Xi's administration.
习能够迅速的抓到权力，能够获得核心的称号，靠的就是反腐这颗大棒来震慑党内的反对势力。
The reason why she is able to centralize the power so quick and get the title of the core of the party, he depends on the anti-corruption campaign as a stick to threaten all other powers within the party.
而王岐山呢，就是反腐的操刀手。
And Wang Qishan is the butcher or the one that who hold the knife.
那么王岐山呢，对于习近平的这个迅速把权力抓自己手里面是功不可没。同时他的反腐呢，又得罪了很多人，成为众矢之的。
She is very important for Wang is very important for Xi's success, but at the same time, he also offended other party officials.
那么习王两人的关系呢，我认为呢是一种剪不断理还乱的关系，是一种非常复杂的关系，剪不断理还乱。
So the relationship between Wang and Xi is pretty intertwined with each other.
那么从习的本意来说呢，他是一定要全力保王的，否则就是一损俱损。
From Xi's perspective, he has to try his best to protect Wang, because if Wang is stepped down, then he will step down.
那么呢，这个从最近这几天呢，这个发生了这个一件就是纪念这个王岐山的岳父100周年的一个纪念会，这件事情呢就可以看出来。
The most recent evidence is that the high-profile memorial events of Wang Qishan's father-in-law.
那么呢，4个常委出来给王岐山站台，那么其中还有包括代表习的这个栗战书，就是现在即将呼声比较高也进入常委的栗战书。
There are 4 members from the standing committee show up, including Li Jianshu, who is representing Xi, and who also have very high possibility to enter the standing committee.
这个是明显的一个迹象，是高调的来挺王。
This is a hint that everybody is like high profilely support Wang.
但是呢，政治上呢，有时候是很势利的。
But sometimes politics is very about interest.
那么在王反腐得罪了整个官场的这么一种情况下呢，习呢面临这个困难的选择。什么困难的选择呢？必须要在王和体制之间做出一个选择。
When Wang offended every party members and then Xi Jinping need to make the choice between Wang or the system.
那么呢，很有可能呢是为什么王这个问题突出出来呢？因为这有一个中共7上8下的一个潜规则或者是一个规矩。王岐山呢，这个今年已经69了，按照这规矩讲，他不应该再继续留任常委了。
There is a hidden rule within the party. If the party's member is over 68, then they will step down from entering next round's standing committee. But if they are 67, then they can stay. But Wang at this point is 69.
所以王呢，如果说要这个不留在常委，那么也可能给他安排其他的职务，这都是一种可能性。但是即便是这样子，所谓这个平安降落，这个王的今后的这个结局也很难说。因为当年周永康呢，也是所谓的平安降落，但是最后的话呢，被送到清城监狱去。
Even though we can say that even though Wang might not enter the standing committee, there is possibility they might put him on different positions. But anyway, even though in the end Wang is able to stay intact and stay into the office, there might be some changes. For example, Zhou Yongkang was also in the standing committee, but later on he ended up in a.
那么呢，我还有最后一句话，就是因为王在位的时候，他在反腐的时候没有推动制度性的反腐啊，因此呢，他在历史上的定位呢，他虽然打了很多老虎，但是中国历史上呢，对这类人物有一个名词叫做酷吏。那么王岐山呢，也逃脱不了这个酷吏的这么一个名称。
When Wang Qishan is in power, he didn't promote for institutionalized anti-corruptions. So in the end, in the history, people call them this kind of people, brutal government officials, even though they beat up a lot of tigers, but they will be seen as brutal government officials.
Well, thanks, Gao. It seems like your observation that Xi Jinping will have to choose between standing by Wang Qishan or consolidating his power and the cost he's going to have to pay. So let me ask both of you. So Xi Jinping is clearly trying to consolidate his power with these different things he wants, bringing his own people, putting them into Politburo, putting them in a standing committee, and to consolidate his ideological power, to put Xi thought raised to the level of, party ideology. So what's your assessment at this point of his power position? I think, Gao, you've positioned his Nanti, the choices he has to make, but what are the risks that you think he's facing at this point? Not like he clearly is operating and moving and trying to consolidate, and he is facing some hard choices, give up his knife, who's been the knife, or he's going to have to himself face, some diminished power. So what's your assessment of his power position, and what risk do you think he's actually facing?
So Lao Gao mentioned the purge of Zhou Yongkang. Zhou Yongkang was the head of the entire security apparatus, domestic, international. He was the central level chief of all the police. And although we don't have a lot of details on this, but I think it's pretty safe to say that because he had been doing it for a long time, 周永康在这个安全体制内的工作是很长。So I think that he must have, the way the Chinese, or really any system works, placed a lot of his people, Zhou Yongkang's people, throughout the security services. Xi Jinping purged him. I asked many of my Chinese friends, why doesn't Zhou Yongkang fight back? How can you just go down? I mean, he lost his freedom. He lost all of his property, his family, his son and his wife were indicted. His reputation was ruined forever. And nothing happened. Then Xi Jinping goes after 这个军委里面的谁，徐才厚，对，郭伯雄 big generals with their own people throughout the system, takes away their freedom, their property, and nothing happens. These are the tigers, and they didn't do anything about it. Why not? So you can have it's hard to say. You can think back, maybe she had them surrounded in effect on the chessboard, on the Weiqi board, and had all the positions there. Maybe they were motivated by the same motivation that motivated the people who were tried in Stalin's show trials, which is that the only thing I can rescue from all of this is my loyalty to the party. I will allow the party to do whatever to me that it wants. I don't know. But it seems to me that at this point, if those people have gone down without a fight, and now Xi Jinping has appointed, as far as I know, every provincial first party secretary, right? Mm-hmm. All of them. Mm-hmm. All the members of, all the top generals of the military. Mm-hmm. So who can resist him? So in order to resist him, you'd have to phone up other generals. and other top people. And China's very big, and the Chinese military is very big, and you'd have to call up like 10 generals secretly and say, we're going to have a coup on Xi Jinping. One of those generals will rat you out. Probably 9 of them will rat you out. So it seems to me that, so I don't see the victims of Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign biting him back. What is happening, I think, is that the whole bureaucracy is kind of paralyzed because they're all afraid. Well, there are some people who are still, trying to show that they're activists and to make reforms and do things and see if they can get attention. But there are lots and lots of people who are kind of doing nothing. So this is a risk, is that the whole system gets paralyzed by fear. That's not really an existential risk to the Xi Jinping regime, but it's a risk of dysfunction. And he has to overcome that risk by making people have meetings and pledge loyalty and pledge activism and, and say to them, you're a bunch of lazy bums, you've got to work harder and so on, and scare them that way. So I have a hard time seeing the political. I do agree with Lao Gao, though, that if he stops the anti-corruption campaign and sort of sends a signal that I'm sort of tired of doing this, people will be like, oh, now I can fight back. Now I can do corruption, or now I can resist. Or, there is a risk once you crack down so much, not only on the party members and the bureaucrats, but on academia and on students and on everybody. As soon as you back off a little bit, then it's dangerous that way. So it seems to me, therefore, he has to continue on with this very, very tough policy toward everybody.
So the risk is he's, in the middle of these very tough policies, and he can't get off the tiger.
Right, and if he mishandles something, like if there's which I don't think so, but if there's a war over Taiwan, or clash with the U.S. Navy, or Donald Trump does something, and Xi Jinping appears to have been humiliated, which, as I say, I'm not predicting this, but if that happens, then his power could deflate rather rapidly because it's such a personal power. You might compare to Trump, who's humiliated himself many, 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 many times, but under the rule of law system, he's still the president, and people treat him like the president.
So Gao, do you agree that it seems like he can't get off this tiger? Everyone, if they're paralyzed by fear, is he really then risk-free?
Yeah, first, I just want to respond Andy's thought and then answer your question. OK。那么刚才呢，这个连友教授呢提出来说周永康呢为什么没有什么那么大的权利？为什么没有反抗？我觉得话呢，事实上那是这个情况。就当时让他退的时候，对他是有承诺的。常委不入罪，就是你到了常委这一级不追究你，当时是有这个承诺的。但是后来呢？变了卦了。
So Professor Andy has asked about why that Zhou Yongkang, when he stepped down, he didn't fight back. That's because they had made promises before he stepped down. They promised that members of the standing committee will not be charged crime.
那么刚才呢，我提到王岐山呢，如果他不能留在常委的话，那么我相信习近平呢也一定会给他一种承诺，就是说。虽然外面对你有很多说法，但是呢，我们党对你是信任的，你放心。
So I just mentioned Wang Qishan, and if Wang Qishan really couldn't enter the standing committee, I think she will also make promise to him saying that the party still trusts you.
You are safe.
You are safe.
But really, I don't think so. 那么周永康就是一个前车之鉴。
And Zhou Yongkang is the president.
那么呢，第二个问题呢，就是我想回应一下这个李安友教授关于提到为什么这么多军中的大老虎，那些这个 high-ranking official， 为什么这大老虎他们一点反抗都没有？我觉得这个里面呢，这个从因素上就来讲呢，第一的话呢，首先是中共的这个体制问题，就是说这些人的话呢，他虽然非常 power。非常有很大的权力，但是它是附着在体制这张皮上。
The second point, I want to answer the questions of why those big tigers in the military didn't fight back. The first reason is that because of the system of the Communist Party. Even though they are very powerful, but they are attached to the scheme of the system.
那么一旦离开这张皮的话，这个体制这张皮的话，他们就是 nothing.
And if they get rid of that skin and they're not attached to it, they are nothing.
况且呢，他们在这种体制下面呢，他们的话呢，那种血性啊，都已经磨光了，更多的是一种利益上的一种算计。
Within this system, their kind of personality are actually eroded. What they are left is interest.
那么的话呢，这个呢就是大体是这么个情况。第二点呢，我觉得呢，这里面呢还应该再提到王岐山。王岐山在习近平的打老虎反腐的过程中起了很大的那个作用。这个就是而且他的一步一步的章法，一层一层的，一步一步走，他不是一下子就把周永康就给拿下来，也不是一下子就把郭平拿出来，先把他周边的人先给他拿下来，这叫敲山震虎。把他的爪牙等于是把老虎的牙都给拔了以后，然后 next step.
The second reason is about Wang Qishan, because the anti-corruption campaign, when they take down the tigers, they are not doing it all at once. They do step by step. So what they're doing is that they take down the persons around the tiger, and then they take down the tiger. It's more like ripping off the teeth of the tiger before they finally take down the tiger.
另外呢，中共现在经常就对付维权人士，利用人的这种叫做亲情，来这种也就是这是人最这个基本的这种感情，同时也是弱点，利用这个东西来抓住他们的要点。譬如说周永康，就是因为把他的儿子从外面给找回来了。周永康那就全部要交代了，因为周永康讲，我一个人，我这70岁了，我不怕什么，但是我不愿给孩子、给家人造成那个灾难。
One of the tactics that the parties always use is to control the family members, use their emotions for their families, and that's their weakness. For example, in the Zhou Yongkang case, the party controls the sons of Zhou Yongkang first. For Zhou Yongkang, he might say that, oh, I'm just myself. But when it comes to family members, they always confess.
那么我来山人，我用的比较短，用刚才时间已经占的比较多了，我用比较短的时间再回答你刚才提到的这么两个问题。第一个问题就是现在的情况究竟是怎么一个情况？
So now I'm going to answer Sharon's questions. The first one is what situation it is now.
那么现在我的看法，现在局势呢，现在离开这个中共十9大呢还有1个月时间，但是局势仍然不明。
Even though we're only 1 month away from the party's congress, the situation is still unclear.
那么现在有各种矛盾的信息，那么呢，表明呢，各方呢正在进行最后的博弈。
There are many contradictory information show us that the two sides, the various sides, are fighting the last battle.
不过现在虽然有很多不确定，有一点可以确定下来，就是19大还要保留常委。
Even though there's a lot of uncertainty, one thing that we can be certain about is that the 19th Party's Congress will maintain the standing committee.
因为从去年这个一直呢，海外有些媒体呢在造势，说是要取消常委。现在明显看起来这个事情并不是这样的。那么为什么要取消常委呢？就是为习近平来集权来造势。
Since
造势。
Since last year, there's been a lot of media reporting about that the abolishment of the standing committee, but now it seems it's not the case. The reason why they are proposing that kind of opinion is that it will make it easier for Xi Jinping to centralize the power.
那么第二个例子呢，我想提出来呢，就是那个日本的读卖新闻报道出中共19大的常委7人名单，其中的话团派3个人。
Another evidence is that one of the Japanese newspaper has published that a list of 7 standing committee members. 3 of them belongs to the Youth League faction.
如果这个消息是比较确实的话，说明呢，习近平现在虽然大权在握，但是呢，并没有形成一言九鼎这么个局面，在常委中并没有掌握一个绝对的多数。
If the news is accurate, then we can say that even though she is very powerful, he didn't have the ultimate power within the party.
那么还有一个更明显的一个例子，就是说呢，最近呢宣布召开中共19大的政治局会议公报中，那么习思想呢并没有出台。
Another more obvious example is that in the most recent Politburo bulletins that announced the convening of the 90s Party's Congress, Xi thought it was not stated.
现在这个习思想呢变成了党中央治国理政思想，这是出在中共政治局会议公报中的正式的明文，这个是非常权威的这么一个说法。
In the bulletins, Xi thought is changed to the party's central committee's thoughts on governing the country and dealing with politics.
那么呢，这些迹象呢，反映一个什么问题呢？就是习的权力啊，并没有像这个媒体渲染的那么大。
All these hints show us that Xi's power is not as big as what the media are purporting.
集权的做法呢，也受到了某种抵制，而不得不做出妥协。
His efforts to centralize the power has been resisted, and he has to make some compromise.
当然了，也不排除习在这个问题上是以退为进，在某些问题上进行妥协，而以换取呢对军方任命的决定权，不排除这是个策略。
Of course, there's a possibility that Xi is actually making compromise to make step forward. He may compromise on some issues in exchange for the decision power in the personnel arrangement of the military.
那么还有关于这个要点Sharon我要回答，就是关于习面临的风险问题。
Another question I'm going to answer from Sharon is the risk of Xi.
那么我认为从短期来看呢，就是习近平呢现在是防止在19大前大翻盘。
From a short term, what he's trying to do is that he needs to prevent a big turnaround before the 90s Party's Congress.
因为权斗呢这回是异常激烈，这个内部有权斗，外面有郭文贵爆料，那么呢双方呢都没有退路，是你死我活，任何事情都可能发生。
The power struggle is really intense inside the party. Outside the party, we have Guo Wengui, and there's really no room to retreat for both of them.
那么从中长期来看呢，这个习近平19大集权以后呢，是走的是一条不归路。
What Xi is trying to do after the 90s Party Congress is really a way that have no way back.
因为呢，反腐呢得罪了整个官场，在政治上开倒车呢，又失去了民心。
He offended the whole circle of officials in this anti-corruption campaign, and in politics, he go on the opposite directions of the history and have lose public support.
所以习现在是只有这么一条路，只有这么2种选择，或者是在位，或者是下台被清算。因此呢，习现在面临和当年毛一样的困境。
He only has 2 options. He either stay in the power or got purged. He's now in the same dilemma as Mao.
Well, that's a very strong picture. In that picture, though, can you imagine, either of you, a wild card? Like, can you imagine something we can't imagine at this point? Is there something like a wild card that could like is there something that could just bao出来? Are there certain things that would absolutely in the next month, if we look at the horizon of the next month, are there any potential wildcards that might change this picture where it seems that you both painted very clearly? What wildcards could occur in the region?
I guess we could talk about wildcards that Xi Jinping is preventing from happening that are not likely to happen, but we can understand why he. So, for example, he doesn't want a crisis in North Korea, but it seems that because if there were a crisis in North Korea, I mean, the forms of that crisis might be very diverse. But if there's a military, if North Korea fires a missile at Guam, or if the United States takes out a North Korean missile, or there's a military episode in Korea, which is very hard to control how it's going to unfold. That would test Xi Jinping in a way that it's hard for me to see how he can come out ahead. He's going to look bad, and everybody's going to look bad, and we'll probably all be dead. But that would be one that he doesn't want anything. So, I mean, that kind of thing happening could upset the internal power structure in China. A crisis in the South China Sea, maybe a U.S. and Chinese ships colliding. So things are very quiet there for now. A crisis in the Senkakus, a crisis over Taiwan. These are all crises that Xi Jinping is not pushing now. There have been times in the past where Xi Jinping pushed on the Senkakus, pushed on the South China Sea, pushed on Taiwan, but now not, because those could be crises. The other category is probably, so that's the foreign category, and then there's the economic category, but that's not something that happens in 1 month, probably. So I wouldn't talk too much about that. But then there is the category of domestic stability. So we see this incredible crackdown, on the Uyghurs, on the Tibetans, on Hong Kong, on the human rights defenders, on civil society, on the academic institutions, on the media, trying to make sure that nothing goes wrong, And there's a theory that the minute you give anybody a little leeway, everybody's going to rise up, which is very diagnostic. And Lao Gao said that the public opinion doesn't like Xi Jinping. It's complicated because actually there's a lot of people who seem to accept the present status quo because of economic growth. But at the same time, I think there is also a feeling of people, if the lid were taken off, that their feelings would change, as it happened in 1989, and there is the possibility of mass action breaking out. So I think the regime is trying to prevent that. I guess my own assessment is it will succeed in preventing these unexpected events from occurring because it's working so hard to prevent them, and has so many assets and resources and so many police and so much money that it probably can succeed in keeping things really, really quiet until the 19th Party Congress is over. And of course, we're probably going to discuss what happens after that, but right now we're just talking about how to keep things really quiet until that happens.
Can I just follow up though, Andy, that keeping quiet is very different than repressing, because quiet suggests it's all anji. But the crackdowns, like on the Tibetans and the Uyghurs and in Hong Kong, I think Hong Kong is a good example too, is that tightening in Hong Kong is not resulting in quiet. It's resulting in more mobilization, more anger, more people being pushed to positions. So does that, is that your assessment that that it won't really destabilize, or do you think there are some things that might destabilize, especially in the context that despite these crackdowns, which across all sectors is pretty broad right now and comprehensive, however, we're still seeing reported like military protesting on pensions not being paid, right? Retirement, right? The retirement.
Retired military.
Teachers protesting because they're not being paid. Workers protesting because of conditions but large protests, very large.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing to just sort of throw into the mix to see if you still, like, what do you think about wildcards when we open the picture and see that this kind of resistance to the crackdown, or the wives, the spouses of the lawyers, that they are quite activists. They're not suddenly going quiet or silent. They're really standing up and pushing. So in that picture, A, is the impact of Xi Jinping's effort to prevent the wildcards, to prevent the disability, is it really going to prevent it, or is he building in the pressure? Is he building up the pressure cooker so that not only can he not in the short or long term succeed, but that it's going to be, he's building up the inevitably pressure that's going to blow. I don't know. I want to push you a little bit on your quiet scenario.
So first of all, Hong Kong is unique in China because it has to be handled more carefully than the rest of China. So I think right now they're ratcheting up the repression by throwing Joshua Wong and 2 other people in jail and depriving them of the right to run for office for 5 years. And if that doesn't work to keep things, they can allow Hong Kong to simmer. They can allow people to a certain amount of leeway, but Joshua Wong and his friends went too far. They sparked a mass movement, and now they want to run for office and talk about self-determination. So those are intolerable to Beijing, and so but Beijing can't just grab them and throw them into jail with the way they do in the mainland, because they will if they have to do that, but they'd rather use more subtle methods in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is Hong Kong and it's one country, 2 systems, and it has a lot of foreign presence, and it has a demonstration value for Taiwan and all that. So that's how. But the rest of the country, I think both of the things are what you said and what I said are both true. That is to say, it is working and it will keep. And of course, there are all these scattered demonstrations, but the trick there is to keep them scattered and to settle them with a combination of. And it's the job of the local people, local officials, to solve these problems. It's not Xi Jinping's job. And if you don't solve that problem, you're not going to get promoted. So the local officials have a variety of ways of solving it, arresting some people, paying some pensions, and just sort of keeping things scattered. That's the quiet that I'm talking about. And the wild card that would destabilize the 19th Party Congress is if all these things come together like they did in 1989. And my answer to you is both are true. They will prevent them from coming together through October. And sometime in the future, 2019, 2020, 2040, 2060, sometime down the road, the pressure will build up so much that it will blow, but we can't. It doesn't feel to me like that's now, and we can't say when it will be. In a recent issue of the Journal of Democracy, there's a good article by Min-Shin Pei that I think kind of discusses this balance of things. How the resistance, because I think there is a fundamental mechanism in human affairs that repression breeds resistance. There's a kind of hydraulic principle, but when that happens, it's these 2 powers, and we don't know when the balance between them is going to shift. But right now, to my eyes, the pressing down power is very substantial.
I think we should also add Pei Min-shin's article on that, because for our viewers, we are including resources and background reading, just a suggestion. So we should make sure.
Of Democracy.
Yeah, so we should definitely add that. But I think, well, Gao, you've been wanting to jump in on this because I think Andy's view seems, he just gave a really clear view that's nuanced. How do you see the wild cards? Do you think that Xi Jinping is going to succeed in preventing a wild card of, just like, here it is, the Joker card. Will he be able to do that, or at least the pressure is building up? But Andy's second point is that we really can't predict when that pressure might build up too much, how long it will take. What's your view on that?
就是关于这个 wildcard 这个问题呢，确实是因为这19大的这权斗啊，这回跟往年不一样，异常激烈。因此呢，我始终认为呢，任何事情都可能发生，只有开了会才算完。所以呢，很多事情呢是不可以预测的。但是呢，所谓不可以预测呢，就是既是不可以预测发生什么，同时你也不能够说什么事情就不发生。就是这么一个情况。
The power struggle in this 90s Party Congress is really intensive. So it's very hard to predict what could happen and hard to predict what could not happen. We could not say that something is definitely not going to happen.
因为对习近平来说呢，中国19大对于他来说是一个生死之战，绝不容许出现任何的这种变故，这种 wild card 这种或者是这种黑天鹅发生。他是要防止这个。
For Xi Jinping, the 90 Party Congress is really a battle for life and death for him. So he will not let any wild cards to happen. Really.
那么习呢，本来他的策略呢是想呢安内攘外啊，所谓安内攘外呀。
So what Xi is trying to do, he's trying to maintain the internal and external stability.
External 就是对外面做出一些让步，来换取外部的这个安定。那么呢，对内呢，它是强烈的镇压，全方位的镇压，它是一种。
So for internal, it's comprehensive repressions, and for outside external, is to make some compromise.
Sharon， 在这一点上呢，我想呢，多少讲一讲国内民众对这个问题的那个看法。那么的话呢，实际上呢，现在19大的这个现在官方对这个舆论的控制啊，可以说是空前的这个严厉。
I want to talk a little bit about the public opinion with inside China. And in the 90s Party Congress, the official is really trying to control public opinion.
官方呢，现在是最新的发展呢，就是因为现在过去呢是从微博已经衰落，都转到微信上面去了。现在是微信上呢是封号抓人。
So we know that a lot of discussion had transferred from Weibo to WeChat now, but now in WeChat there are several people that has been detained and their account has been banned.
那么最近呢，就是最近这2天呢发生了。我举2个例子是比较有代表性的。
I give 2 examples.
第一个呢，就是所谓《环球时报》，不是官方的《环球时报》，是一个实际的事。他的群主刘鹏飞是清华大学的博士后啊，是体制内的人，他负责把墙外的各种 information 搬到墙内去，在他的号里面进行扩散。现在刘鹏飞呢已经被官方抓起来，他这个《环球时报》的这个微信号呢也被封掉。
He has an account. There is an account, public account in WeChat called 环球时报. It's not the official Global Times, but in Chinese it sounds very similar. And the group leader of that chat group is called Liu Pengfei. He's a postdoctor of Tsinghua University. Well, he's actually a member with within the party. What he's trying to do is he collects all the information from outside and then put it in this account. And now he got detained.
那么另一个例子呢，就是有个叫袁鹏飞的，是一个历史教师，他因为批评官方的这个红人刘小平，因此官方把他微博的1400万的一个微博的有这么1400万的 follower 的这么一个微博给封掉，就是在这2天发生的。
Another example is a teacher is called Yuan Pengfei, and then he has an account of 14 million followers on Weibo, And then because he makes some comments on Liu Xiaoping, who is very
周小平
Zhou Xiaoping, who is a high-level party member, and then his account got banned.
那么呢，实际上现在在国内呢，对于19大的这种反应呢，基本是官方的舆论的一边倒，就是喜迎19大。
And now within the countries, the public opinion is overwhelmingly promoting opinions that happily welcome the 19th Party Congress.
那么呢，对于翻墙出来的人，因为在墙内没有言论自由，没有办法自由表达自己的想法，所以都是官方的19大就是欢迎19大啊，就这样子。那么呢，对于翻墙出来的这些中国的这些网民们呢，这个对19大呢，基本上分成两大派。
For those opinions within the country, because it's controlled, so it's overwhelmingly supportive. But for people who jump over the Great Firewall, their opinion have divided up.
那么呢，一派呢就认为支持习王反腐，支持王岐山留任。
One faction support Xi Jinping and support anti-corruptions and support Wang Qishan to stay in the office.
那么另一派呢认为呢，中国当前最危险的不是腐败问题，而是个人集权独裁。
The other factions think that the most dangerous things for China now is not corruptions, but dictatorship.
那么呢，实际上呢，我刚才就是这么一下，就是回顾一下这习近平所谓这个安内攘外他具体的做法。那么他在国际上呢，实际上是全方位的让步。不仅的话呢，因为这个对朝核问题曾经对美国川普政府做出那个让步，那么话呢来承诺来这个限制这个朝鲜。那么另外呢，在印度问题上，中印边境的冲突上，他也不敢去真正的去打一场仗，而是最后靠这个花钱来买平安。
Talking about how China handle external pressures, one thing is that they have been making compromise in terms of North Korea nuclear problems and also in India. What they are trying to do is to pay in exchange of safety or stability.
那么他这样做呢，就是想平稳的过渡19大，就是把19大给它开完了，咱们赶紧那就完事儿了。
The purpose is really to trying to pass through the 19th Party Congress smoothly.
但是呢，飞出来郭文贵这么一只黑天鹅，或者说是一种 wildcard， 这样子呢，就使得习近平呢一时呢乱了阵脚。
However, a wild card is Guo Wengui, and then he makes Xi become very not in order.
那么郭文贵这种爆料呢，他实际上给中共党内的反习势力呢提供了一个发难的平台。
What Gao Wenqian did really give opportunity for people who's anti-Xi within the party an opportunity to challenge him.
但是现在呢，据我的观察呢，习近平已经重新站稳脚跟。
However, we can see that Xi has resume his stability.
那么呢，他现在呢就用4个不惜代价来力挺王岐山，来镇压国内外的所谓不稳定的因素。4个不惜代价。
He used the 4 accords to support Wang Qishan, which is a saying that he talked about in a previous high-level meeting, and its effort to repress all kinds of instability factors internally.
那么我的观察呢，习近平现在呢，虽然还不能够完全按照自己的意愿来这个安排19大。
So what my thinking is that right now, Xi, even though he could not make decisions for the 19th Party's Congress,
100% 呀，就是这样，或者是 mostly， 但是的话呢，他呢仍然占据上风。他希望呢，只要能平稳的开完会，他就可以的话，这个挟中央以令全党全国。
But he still has an advantage. He believes that as long as the Congress are moving forward smoothly, then he can control the party and the country by controlling the central committee.
那么呢，实际上呢，共产党就是这样子。开会的时候，党代会是最高权力机构；不开会的话，就由政治局常委那来说了算，就由这个习近平来说了算。所以他就现在千方百计的是把这个会给他开完它。
This is just really how the party act sometimes. When during the meeting or during the Congress, the Congress is really the highest authority, but without the meeting, it's just really about the standing committee and the Politburo.
那么呢，如果发生事变的话，这个军队是习近平手里的王牌。
If there's something really happens, then the trump card for Xi is really the military.
那么这个就是习近平为什么可以在其他问题上做出一些让步妥协，但是也一定要牢牢地抓住军队来撤换防风灰的这个原因。他说方辉是那个参谋长，这是军方高层的一个最近的一个重大的一个变动。
That's the reason why no matter what kind of compromise that she made, he has to control the army. And that's why he trying to change the personal arrangements in the military. One of the high level, he's the chief of the general staff. His name is Fang Huifeng gets that.
那么对于反习势力来说呢，现在虽然处于下风，但是人数众多，在人心向背上占上风，这是我的看法。
For the factions or the powers who is anti-Xi, even though they are in a disadvantage, but they have huge populations, so they have advantage in terms of public.
因此呢，这种反习势力呢，可以说呢，形成这个很大的社会舆论压力，那么呢，来抵制习搞个人独裁和开历史倒车，阻止习呢一人独大。
So there is really pressures from public opinion against Xi's dictatorship and his attempt to go on the opposite path of the history.
So before we move on, I see that we have online following us, some old friends of the organization as well as just new people online following us. So I really do want to invite them to send a question or post a question in the chat box. So please do that while we move on. We have half an hour left, and it would be great if you want to, some of you, just post a question. If you'd like to do it anonymously, then send the question to communications@hrichina.org. If you want to do that anonymously, if you don't, just post it in the comment box on the screen, because I see a group of people that we know. Is there a question, Kurt? Okay, so we have a question just sent in. Okay, and here's the question. This is from an anonymous question, I guess, but I don't know, but it came in through the box. What products made in China, imported to the United States, could Americans effectively boycott as a symbolic protest against China's ongoing violations of human rights? This is from a lawyer in Oregon. So what products made in China that are imported to the U.S. could Americans effectively boycott as a symbolic protest against China's ongoing violations of human rights?
That's a great question, but I don't have a ready answer because there's so much imported from China, and to send any signal, I think it needs to be organized, maybe around a particular product, so that because it's going to be at best, I think, only symbolic. You're not going to have I would doubt, a real economic impact. So I suppose it almost doesn't matter. One may pick any product and make it clothing or a brand name of clothing. If I dare suggest Ivanka clothing, it's all made in China.
Clothing we can't afford, Andy.
one boycott for two purposes. But I know we're not an organization here doing American politics, so that's just kind of a joke. But you know, it's an idea. But one should just pick a particular product that has a very clear China, made in China logo on it, or a brand name of China that we can afford to not use, and where it's hopefully a government product rather than a private product. Think about that and make it a symbolic action.
Well, God, do you have a suggestion on what product we could boycott? It looks like you do.
我提一个问题，就是关于的话呢，这个中国现在这个网络封锁的问题。网络封锁这个本身呢是违反 WTO 的这个贸易协定的，它呢是一种贸易壁垒。那么的话呢，现在在中国做生意的很多，咱不讲中国的老百姓在网络封锁中，这回很多 VPN 很多什么东西都给封杀掉了，翻墙极为困难。那么连在中国的外国大公司，它由于封锁这个 VPN， 他们的这个 business 这个因此也受到了伤害。因此呢，我觉得美国方面呢，完全可以根据 WTO 的这个要求是一个对等的。你如果要是封锁我的这个影响我的公司在中国做生意的话，那么我也会相应的对你中国在美国的公司提出来惩罚性的关税也好，或者采什么其他的惩罚的这种做法也好，我就想出来这么一个。
I have a suggestion because China really censored internet. For example, the recent VPN crackdowns, and a lot of foreign business in China actually have been affected, and it's actually a violations of the WTO rules. So it is quite reasonable for American government to propose some kind of disputes with Chinese in the WTO platforms in terms of censorship.
这是一种变相的贸易壁垒，这是违反 WTO 这个规定的。
It's a disguised forms of a trade barrier, and it's a violations of WTO rules.
Yeah, I think there's a fair amount of discussion on how censorship is a trade barrier, and I think that's a good question. And some of the watchers on Facebook like that suggestion because we get the light going across the screen. So I really want to invite folks to who are watching, please do send in any comments or questions as we move into the last half hour. So I think it's been clear from the discussion that there are some different scenarios that's going to be post the October 18th Party Congress. And so if I can pose them and ask you to think about, because I think you've already talked a little bit about the likelihood of outcomes. So maybe we could take a look at each of the potential outcomes that you have both basically identified, and then really have you talk more, less about the likelihood because you've done that, but talk about the impact and the implications for domestic, regional, and international implications of the different outcomes. So let me say outcome A. This doesn't mean I think it's the best. I'm just saying this is just one, and then we'll take a look at another one. But one outcome is that after Party Congress, let's take the more unlikely one at this point, that Xi Jinping comes out with being chairman. Mm-hmm. Like, I know this is not the most likely one, but let's just do one at a time. So he's the chairman, and Wang Qishan steps down. Mm-hmm. Like, let's say scenario A. If that happens, you've both already discussed what the different factors are and what that might mean inside the party, but let's step out of that a minute and say, in that scenario, he's chairman and Wang Qishan steps down. Mm-hmm. What are the implications domestically, then for the region, and for international. So maybe we let Lao Gao talk about domestic, but Andy, maybe you take a lead on regional and international implications of that scenario.
You go first.
No, you go. I think domestic first.
OK， 那么我谈一谈，就是如果刚才
But brief so that we can get to all three.
OK， 那么我来回答这个 Sharon 刚才提到的这么一种可能性或者一种假设。那么这种假设就是呢，习近平当主席了，但是王岐山出局了。这种情况呢，我认为呢，习近平不是一个大获全胜，因为他需要王岐山的这个支持，因此呢，他是得到了一些，也失去了一些。
This scenario is where he did not have this is not a victory for him because he win a little bit, but he also lose.
那么呢，我认为的话呢，那么这种情况下呢，如果习能够当主席的话，可以说呢，他已经是获得了相当的胜利啊。
But if she really become the chairman, it means a big win.
因为主席这个位置呢，他有最后决定权。
Because the position of the chairman have the say in the end.
他可以在很多问题上，他最后拍板说了算，就像当年毛像邓一样。
He can make the decisions just like when Mao is still alive.
如果是这种情况的话，我认为呢，他会加大这个力度，沿着现有的执政方向走下去。
But if that's really the case, then I think that he will intensify the current policies and follow the current directions of the policy.
那么呢，具体的他会全方位的收紧对社会的控制。
It will comprehensively increase the control of the society.
包括思想言论、文化、社会乃至经济领域。
Including ideology, culture, society, and even economy.
那么中国在这种情况下将进入一个冰河期。
China will enter the ice age.
那么呢，海外有一部分人认为呢，希望习集权之后呢，能够开启政治改革。我认为呢，这是痴人说梦，没有任何的现实依据。
Many people outside China think that after Xi centralized the power, he will launch the political reform. But from my point of view, that's just a fantasy of a silly person. It would not have any evidence.
那么可以说呢，习近平执政5年来呢，乏善可陈，反腐是唯一的亮点。
Since Xi come to power for 5 years, he has little to claim credit for. Anti-corruption might be one of the only highlights that.
但是由于没有进行制度性的反腐，而且呢是选择性的反腐呢，已经使其道义的正当性的破产。
However, anti-corruption is not institutionalized. It's quite selective, and so the moral legitimacy has been undermined.
而呢，目前的经济又持续恶化，社会矛盾激化。
At the same time, economy continue to deteriorate and social conflict intensified.
那么习呢是急于谋求对策，重拾人心。
So she urgently needs a strategy to win public support back.
最近习呢有2个引人注目的动作。
He has 2 actions taken recently.
一个是在9月9号毛的忌日的那一天，率领军方将领去祭拜毛。
One is that on the anniversary of Mao's death on September 9th, she memorized Mao together with some high-level military leaders.
另一个动作呢，是在金砖会议上宣布，明年要隆重纪念改革开放40周年。
Another action is that on the BRICS summit, she announced to hold a big celebration next year for the 40th anniversary of the reform and opening up policy.
这表明呢，习在国内政策上呢，将适当的纠正呢他上台以后后毛驳邓的这种倾向。
It means now she is trying to slightly adjust his previous tendency to emphasize Mao, but downplay Deng.
那么他会采取毛邓并举的这个2手策略，用毛思想呢来维持一党天下的体制，用邓的改革开放呢来挽救经济的衰退。
So now he's really taking a strategy to admire both Mao and Deng, use Mao's thought to maintain the one-party system, and use Deng's reform and opening up policy to save the economic from recession.
但是我认为习这种脚踩两只船的做法呢，只是一个一厢情愿。
However, Xi's actions in taking two boats at the same time is just a magical things of him.
因为从中共的历史来看，凡是政治上向左转，经济上就必然滑坡，这是一条铁律。
Because from the historical point of view, once the politics turn left, economic must go down. This is the iron rule.
So the regional and international implications, I think, really hang upon the economy. If the economy continues to grow, as it's now 6.7 or 6.9% a year, China's power will increase because its power really rests on economic power and the growth of military power, and the type of soft power that China has is based in the economy rather than in the political values, it seems to me. So, and the impact of Xi becoming chairman and Wang Qishan retiring on the economy is very indirect. You know, it doesn't really determine that. I think what determines it is a bunch of decisions that they have to make about the banking system and debt and local government debt and the stock market and state-owned enterprises and so on and so forth. Decisions that while she will have some role in making, to be sure. But I don't know that what decisions he's going to make or whether they're going to be successful. I mean, in your scenario, he is party chairman, so he's going to have a lot to do with governing the economy, among other things. If Wang Qishan steps down and he is replaced by an effective anti-corruption head, which is possible, then the anti-corruption campaign will go on. If the anti-corruption campaign comes to an end, that I think will in the long run hurt the economy. But I don't know how fast that effect will be seen.
I think it seems that in each of the examples you gave that impacts economic growth, the banking sector, the debt, and the state-owned enterprises, which is the major part of the economy, it seems that if corruption, anti-corruption is not systematized, there's no way the growth can continue, because it seems that the corruption is both impacting the growth. If you really look at the real numbers, right, as well as systematic corruption is undercutting the foundation for the reform of the SOEs and ensuring that the debt is at a level. I think it undermines sustainable growth. If you could, even without the social factors of sustainable growth, if the corruption is not systematized, right?
Anti-corruption.
Then it cannot have growth sustained, because I think that's in part Pei Mingxin's argument. That
they say they want to
collapse.
systematize anti-corruption by creating a state anti-corruption agency, and
I don't think Gao believes that.
I mean,
Yes,
that's what they're
exactly
talking
right.
about.
Exactly right.
You know, our idea of systematizing anti-corruption is to have a free press and freedom of speech, and have an independent judiciary, even with political cases. I think their idea is Dang Zhendu Dang. It's the party supervises itself in a systematic fashion, which in the abstract I think is possible. Whether it's going to work, I don't know.
One word from Gao about the party supervising the party.
我这个问题就是这个监督呢，这是必须要有制度上的监督。但制度上的监督呢，不能够从党的纪律检查委员会变成国家的监察委员会。这个国家监察委员会还是姓党，所以换句话说呢，同体监督是不行的，一定要一体监督。
So right now what they're trying to do is to shift from discipline inspection committee to a national supervision committee, but that is still the same body, is still the party, and it's not going to work out.
所以呢，在这种情况下呢，所谓这个反腐呢，他现在这条路呢，他在就是体制内的反腐，他已经走不下去，走下去的结果呢，就是用新老虎来打老老虎。哎，现在的话呢，习近平的左膀右臂，无论是王岐山还是栗战书，他们两个家族这个暴富都是在中共18大以后，这两个家族暴富起来的。你把周永康这个大老虎给打下去了，把郭伯雄给打下去了，又上来两个，那什么时候是一个头呢？
The anti-corruption campaigns now within the party is what I call use the new tiger to fight for the old tiger. And for example, Wang Qishan's family and Li Zhanshu's family, they all get rich after the 18th Party Congress, even though they beat down Zhou Yongkang.
Well, do you have any, let's say, to wrap it up, each of you, maybe I'll give you each a couple of minutes to say, what should we look for in the next month? Are there any areas that you think?
You mean before the 19th?
Yeah, like what should people be monitoring and looking for? Just because I think a lot of the international community, you know, and I think to the extent that they can domestically, but certainly the overseas Chinese community are watching closely. So what are the things that you think we might be paying close attention to? What should we be watching for?
Well, if the Chinese official media say anything critical, you know, that hints at criticism of Xi, or if anybody gets purged whose name is being circulated, or for the lineup of top leaders, any of the party secretaries and top generals get exposed for corruption, that would be a sign of some kind of power struggle happening. If anybody disappears from the public appearances, who's supposed to be, that kind of thing that we would be looking for. You know, I wouldn't expect anything clearer than those kinds of subtle signals to surface. That would surprise me if it did.
Maybe, Lao Gao, I wanted you to 补充一些. Like Andy said, let's look at the official media and see if there's any criticism, or, you know, we know that, you know, people being purged or disappeared, but official criticism, like they won't directly criticize Xi Jinping. So what would criticism look like? Like, how should we recognize it? Like, in the official media, is it because they put his picture on the back page or the bottom? I mean, what are the kind of signs, in like 官方媒体 that looks like 是有一点反应，有一点对习近平有一点 like 批判性的看法， but it won't be direct. I think nobody would be that direct. Yeah. So what are the indirect criticisms that we can look for? How will it look?
Yeah. 那么作为观察中国问题呢，我觉得应该掌握一个最基本的一个技巧。
There is one techniques that when you're looking at China.
Yeah. 也就是反听取。你从他说你往东走的时候，你要想一想，他是真正意思，他想让你往西走。
It's to think, the technique is to think the opposite. When he tell you to go west, you might go east.
呀，你要想一想，因为的话呢，很多事情呢，它并不是直接的他来那个表达，你从反面你来想想，你这个解读呢，可能更接近真实情况。
Because most of the time they don't tell you direct. So when you think of it from the opposite, it might be the accurate.
但是另外一方面呢，我觉得这也是作为中国人的悲哀。本来这个5年一次的这个决定中国人民政治生活的一件大事呢，普通老百姓呢没有权利参与。
But it is really a tragedy for the Chinese people because it's a big event determining Chinese politics, but it has nothing to do with ordinary people.
那么普通老百姓呢，这个现在说法叫做吃瓜观众啊，咱们搬个小板凳，咱们坐那儿看大戏那就行了。
For most of the public audience, they call themselves audience eating watermelons.
这个不管怎么样子变化，是王岐山是出局还是不出局，习近平是当主席还是不当主席，这个 OK， 这个呢，对这个中国老百姓呢，并没有，就是说这个变化对老百姓就来说，这是两回事儿。对他们实际上是内部分赃不均，但是对于老百姓就来说，还是一党专政。
Whether Wang Qishan stay in power or not, whether she become a chairman or not, for ordinary peoples in China, it's two different things for them because still it's about the internal distributions of interests within the party. It's the same thing for the ordinary people.
Still a one party.
呀，所以老百姓呢就做一件事情就可以了，想办法把这个墙啊。给它推倒它，每一天往上面去推一下子，或者是从墙根底下挖一块砖出来啊！这个墙，这个一个人挖一块砖，10个人就10块砖，100个人就100块砖。这个众人拾柴火焰高啊！这个这么越多的人去来推这个墙的话，这个墙终究有一天会塌的。这墙塌了以后，中国人就获得了自由，获得了信息权，获得了这个思想表达自由权。
What ordinary people should do is to push the wall or to dig out some brick of the wall. If we can all work together and push the wall a little bit by little bit, dig out the bricks a little bit by little bit, the wall will collapse. And when on the days that the wall collapses, we will get freedoms and liberty.
Thank you, Mr. Gao. And clearly there's historical precedent for that. To take a wall down a brick at a time. It's not a metaphor. It actually has happened. So I know that, especially Andy, as a China expert, one of the things that's kind of dangerous is to make predictions. Yeah. And Mr. Gao, Lao Gao, as a historian, it's easier looking backward and interpret than look forward. But how about you each take one sentence and think about it? You can protect a little bit with caveats. But do you want to each offer a prediction of the outcome of what will happen? Do you want to take one sentence each, not a long explanation, but just kind of like if you were placing your bet?
As I have been indicating, I predict no surprises. Xi Jinping will smoothly take power. In my view, whether Wang Qishan stays or not, Xi Jinping's power will still be consolidated because if Wang steps down, he'll be replaced with some other loyalist of Xi Jinping. And Xi will continue to be a very strong leader for the foreseeable future. Not that I can foresee very far down the road.
Oh God, you want to give a one-line prediction?
Yeah. 我觉得话呢，就是像安迪教授讲的这样子，就是说呢，只要习近平他这个在位，他一定会，他已经是占上风。因此的话，中国老百姓将在习的下一个5年任内，准备过一个苦日子，准备的话呢，过一个严冬。哎，那么呢，这个严冬呢，也可能的话呢，就是中国大变的开始。
I agree with what Professor Andy has said, that Xi will definitely still be in power because he's now he has the advantage now. And what really happens for the ordinary people is that the hard time will come, the cold winters for them will come.
那么这个呢是中国大变的开始。
But this is a beginning of a big change of China.
I think that was hopeful.
Still some hope.
Yes, and taking a longer view.
Yeah.
So thank you to both of you. That was really a wonderful discussion, and thank you again. And we should do this again.
You're welcome.
October 19th.
That's just the beginning.
This is the beginning.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. 谢谢。
谢谢。
我要跑，因为我要上火车。
OK， 好。